Okay, are you people able to listen? Here is the idea. Hello, are you people able to listen? Okay, fine. Let me continue. In the recapping of the previous part of the classes, we have got to know what is meant by social sustainability and then economic sustainability in terms of what. So here we have environmental sustainability. It is mainly related to the environment which is to be protected apart from the developmental activities. So, meanwhile, here the maintenance of the biodiversity, or maybe it might be either the protection of the natural capital, such as the resources, which are very much essential for the basic necessity of the life, like air, water, and soil, maintenance of the energy as well as the material cycles on the planet, health and resilience of all life support systems. So, apart from this, we have also got to know environmental sustainability can be achieved through the dependence upon the finite resources, okay, which is to be utilized and which are to be utilized also in the future, or which is already in the use, that we need to protect it. Thereby we need to reduce the dependence condition. The next important thing it is nature must not be subjected to increase in the concentration of the substances towards the society. And next important thing it is productivity and biodiversity should not be systematically degraded. If it is systematically degraded means either at a low phase of the process or maybe the fast phase of the process of the utilization of the natural resources towards the consumer consumption, what happens, it will be degraded at a rapid rate. And then efficient use as well as fair distribution of the resources, like this we have got to know. And now let us get to know what are the themes, the two from the sub themes taken from the concept of the sustainable development. Now you have got to know what is meant by economic sustainability and then environmental sustainability as well as the social sustainability. And we're going to take up the the economic sustainability in the next part of the classes. But it doesn't mean that I'm not covering the economic sustainability. Mainly, the economic sustainability it is depending upon some of the following features. What are those that I'll be going to take it in the next part of the slide itself only. You can get to know how it is. Okay. From that, we can able to make out what is meant by economic sustainability. So here, the themes are given. What are those sustainable development goals as per the United Nations Commissions? First part of the theme it is poverty, and here you can able to see the income of the poverty. What is the income poverty and income inequality that is taking place, and the living conditions. So, what are those living conditions? It mainly depends upon the standard of the living. Either you can able to see low income group of the people, middle income group of the people, as well as the high income group of the people also. And next, related to the governance, the major problem that we are facing it is the corruption as well as the crime. Corruption activities that you can able to see it is like an open part of the things. Even in the case of the COVID-19 also, many of the people they are bribing to get more amount of the money to get extracted from it. And a crime also that is committed at a rapid rate also in a various aspects also. Crime either in terms of an any of the utilization of the resources together, or maybe the mining activities. If we're going to take it in the case of the socialistic concern, crime that is taking place, either the death of the any of the person or the cause of the death is nothing but their own friends or maybe their relatives also. Or likewise, we have many other things. Health, if you're going to take it, the mortality. Mortality means the life at which the person can able to sustain over a definite period of the time. That we call it as a mortality. That means what is the rate of the mortality? If they're going to give means mortality means it has a definite period of the time and afterwards it will lead to the death. Likewise, healthcare diversity, nutritional status, health status, and the risk. Next, if you're going to take it in the case of an education, because that should also contribute towards the sustainable development, what is the education level as well as the literacy content also. See, literacy means it is not only the person who can able to read and write. The literacy can also be taken with respect to gathering of the information, what we people do not get to know that is happening in the society. There is a dark part also. Next, demographics. The term demographics, it mainly refers to the population as well as the tourism content also. Next, natural hazard, that is mainly related to the floods or maybe the famines, sudden part of the earthquakes and all. What you have prepared for the disaster preparedness, or we call it as emergency response. Next, if you're going to take in the case of an atmosphere, we have a climatic change here. So climatic change, ozone layer depletion, why it is happening, and then air quality also. Next, moving on to the land, if you're going to take it, land use and the status. So how much amount of the forest have been cut, and why the desertification process is taking place, and what about the agricultural usage of the land pattern also. The next thing it is oceans, seas, as well as the coasts. If you're going to take the coastal zone also, you can see harbor as well as the port also. There is a trade also, what we call it as an economic trade, and even for the fisheries also, marine aquatic animals are utilized for the consumption purpose. Next, marine environment. There is also one major critical situation that we need to look upon in today's perspective. Next, fresh water means how much quantity of the water is available if it need to be supplied throughout the year, because rain will not come throughout the year, only at a seasonal basis that water has to be stored. Example, the Krishnarajasagara Dam that you've been able to see, which is used to fed the water even for the irrigation and domestic purpose usages. Water quality of the water should be good in nature. Next, bad quality of the water, no people will tend to utilize more of it. Next thing it is consumption as production patterns. So what is the material consumption, how much it is consumed, how much of the waste is generated, are you going to manage it in a proper manner, and even transportation of the goods and services or the products, as well as the transportation related to the waste generation as well as the management. So this category we call it as hazardous waste management, biomedical waste management, battery waste management. Likewise, we have certain rules and regulations that we call it as a legislations. That legislations will study in the later, that is in the last part of the module one. Next, let us get to know five important measures that is related to sustainable development. What are those five important measures that is related to the sustainable development? First one is related to technology. So technology in the sense what you have to check upon. The technology means whatever the appropriate technology that you are going to use in an eco-friendly manner. Okay, it has to be technology should also be cost effective in nature. That is the one thing. And it should also be resource efficient. Why it has to be resource efficient? And whatever the resources that you people are going to see that are being utilized, it has to be used in an efficient manner so that consumption of the resources will be always at the minimum utilization of the natural resources, extracting the maximum product of the benefit. That is what we call it as a resource minimization approaches. Next, another concept that we come across in the case of the technology or the development, in order to have the sustainable development goals and all, we call it as design with the nature. Why we need to go for the design with the nature? Normally, whatever the natural systems that you're going to see, either the photosynthetic action or maybe related to the solar voltaic cells and all, they go for utilizing it. How they have recovered, or maybe they have developed the technology or the designing aspect, mainly looking upon the nature reaction. Okay, likewise here also, in the case of the technology, if you wanted to develop, then you need to develop related to the technology which is have to be eco-friendly, energy or as well as the cost effective in nature, and that too they are culturally suitable in nature. So maybe you people might have come across in somebody, if they have taken in the case of an optimization, you might have learned like in a fuzzy languages, or maybe it is like a fuzzy optimization approaches, or they call it as an ant colony optimization technique, or we call it as the artificial neural networks. And see, these are mainly developed in a mathematical manner. Today they have been programmed in a different manner, and till now also they are utilizing it. See, that is the technology. But how they have taken from it, it is from the nature itself only. Ant colony optimization means how the ant will go for communicating it. In what way the work will be done in an efficient manner. Likewise, there are different technology or the approaches that are being getting developed. Next, second thing, it is measurement of the sustainable development in terms of an reduce, reuse, and recycle approaches. Whatever the products that we are going to utilize it, so resource reduction is very much important. That we call it as a minimization of the resource. Next thing it is, if you have to utilize all the resources that is extracted in terms of an other products. Then once the example could be then whatever the chocolates packets, or maybe the lace or the chips packets, or whatever the mobile phones or maybe electronic gadgets that we're going to utilize, or maybe any of the automobiles, they can also be reutilized in a different approaches. So for that, some of the innovations has to come into the picture. Thereby, it will reduce the pressure on the resources. If we go for utilizing in a proper manner, then the pressure on the resources will be drastically decreased. I'm not telling that it will be suddenly decreased, it will be drastically decreased, because that approach is approval, everything has to come into the picture, starting from the central government to state government to the district wise, as well as the area wise also. Next, recycle approaches. So, recycling of the materials will also tend to reduce even the waste generation as well as even the pollution minimization approaches. That is a one thing. Let me call it as a recycle approach. Next, third part of the important measurements of the sustainable development, it is mainly promoting environmental education and awareness. Now here comes the another scenario. Education was a primary concern here. If you're going to see or check it here, what is the education level as well as the literacy. But here, if you're going to see, promoting environmental education and awareness. Why it is very much important? Because depletion of the resources has made economy as well as even the income or maybe the GDP of the country to get rise. But what about the resources? Either maybe are you following the proper technology? First point. Next, second thing, that is previously what we have given the reduce, reuse as well as recycle approaches. Is it taking in an efficient manner? No means, then what are the technological tools or any other things that you need to use it? In order to use means environmental education, it is not only just making a mandatory part of the courses. See, environmental education and awareness means, though they have kept in the fifth semester as a one credit, giving the multiple choice options and all, but something that is to be contributed by the engineers to the society. What are those? Mainly, whatever the work that you're going to take it, you again land up with some of the legal laws and legislations, or maybe the policy acts and all that you need to adhere to it. If you're not going to adhere to it, today many of the problems that what we are facing still, river water problems, the pollution problems, solid waste disposal problems, or maybe even if you're going to take the air pollution problems and all. These are rising on a day by day extent. Thereby, environmental education, if it is provided, it has to be seen that majority of the interdisciplinary subjects which the environmental education or the awareness is created, that will tend to promote to give the solutions in order to achieve the sustainable development. That is the third major point. Next, fourth part of the measurement, it is related to resource utilization as per the carrying capacity. So carrying capacity, for example, let us take the lungs as an example. We have some particular oxygen carrying capacity, even the water carrying capacity in our body. If the excess of the content is more, then what happens? The utilization, then it may lead to some of the certain change. Similarly, whatever the resources that are present here, as per the carrying capacity, only you need to utilize it. For example, if you compare in the case of an US, the population is very less when compared to that of India. Similarly, in the European countries also, if you're going to take it, the population is very less compared to that of the India. Thereby, where you want to see the utilization of the resources is more, obviously, it is in the case of the India. It's due to the densely populated, and thereby the carrying capacity of the system, if it is cross, means that is resulting either the over exploitation, how much you need to consume the resources, that much, only in a limited manner, or otherwise what happens, over exploitation, for example over mining activities taking place illegally, what happens, then it will drastically degrade the vegetation and no more you can able to utilize it. Another example I would like to give, in the Kudremukh iron mining or the ore and all, iron and manganese, they have dug in a such a manner that whatever the solid waste that are arising in the Bangalore region, okay, it is exceeding more than 1,000 tons of the waste daily. They are landing up in the Bangalore region. Imagine the situation, how they have to be taken. So that is also a part of the resource, but we people treated them as a rubbish or a waste. We need to see that the waste has to be converted in terms of an energy or maybe in any other desirable products. So such kind of the carrying capacity shall tend to exist, or otherwise what happens, the environmental degradation starts and system cannot able to sustain. So if at all the nature is damaged or hurt in a bad manner, it will going to take the revenge in another manner. So if you're going to attack the Panchabhutas, it will tend to counterattack us. That is a major thing. Next, coming on to the fifth one, improving the quality of the life, including social, cultural, and economic dimensions. So, social, cultural, and economic dimension means, in terms of in development, means you should not focus only on making of the money or maybe the selling of the goods or the services. You should also include the social and cultural aspects. See, India is a land of the diverse culture. In the last class itself, only I have stated it. So if you need to improve the quality of the life, including the social aspect, means over a period of the time, you can able to see there is a vast development taking place, either in the case of the transportation activities and all. So conveyance, okay, that is a one part of the development. Roads are being getting constructed, and then metros you can able to see, as well as even whatever the people who are getting the resource benefit or the utilization benefit, they should be including the sharing of the rich as well as even the poor people. That should be giving the life which tend to include social, cultural, and economic dimensions. Now let us get to know the pest analysis. What is this pest analysis and all? I have already stated that sustainable development measure means all this technology, all these things. Because why I'm just only stating this, in the class itself only, I have explained the 17 sustainable development goals. Okay, all the sustainable development goals are very much important in what manner and all, and what need to be sustained. That has to be taken. That's why I'm telling economic sustainability. I'll be going to take it in the later stages. Okay, let us get to know. So, pest analysis, it describes the macro environmental factors that can affect the performance of an organization as a whole. Now you can have the broad picture related to the political, economic, social, as well as the technology. Now here, why I have taken, see here the technology is there, and then what is the political approaches either in terms of an resource utilization or the quality, okay, and social cultural qualities and all. You can able to see here that analysis has to be made. So let us get to know. In the political, we have some environmental issues that has to be solved through the higher part of the government itself only. Neither court nor any other things will not get to solve in a greater extent, because why the environmental issues is very much important, because whatever the legislation, rules, laws, act, they have to be imposed by the government upon the approval. That's why it is a category under the environmental issues. Next, legislation at home, legislation abroad, regulatory bodies, government policies. There are vast regulatory bodies. Okay, you can see, take for example MHRD, Ministry of Human Resource Development, MOUD, Ministry of Urban Development, and likewise, you have different regulatory bodies: Central Pollution Control Board, State Pollution Control Board. Meanwhile, here the trading policies. See, this is the major part where the resources are traded. Trading means either the import or maybe the export also. Funding and as well as the grants also. It is a political aspect. Why the government will tend to have some of the funding agencies and all. And next important thing it is, several different countries and all, they will provide the fund here, investment of the shares or maybe related to the companies and all, they will tend to establish here. That's why it is a political approaches. Next, war and conflict. So these are all again come under the category of the political approaches. Now let us get to know economic approaches. What are those? Mainly related to home economy, or maybe related to abroad economy, how the economy is developing there, what is the comparison. Home means it is not what is the house that we are sitting, it is also includes related to whatever the economy taking place either in our state or maybe in the country as a whole. Next, economy trends, how it is. You can able to see the Sensex market and all, how the economy of the one of the companies will tend to dip as well as tend to gain also. Okay, taxation, seasonal issues and all, as well as customer drivers, exchange type of the rates that is available. So dollars to be converted in terms of in rupees, INR, or maybe euros, or even any of the change or the exchange rates and all related to the goods or the services for the petroleum and all. In terms of a barrel, they will measure. So, what is the cost of it? Likewise, interest rates also. Economic interest rates, for example, in the bank sectors and all, you might have seen 15 years back or maybe 10 years back, if you're going to see the earlier, the fixed deposit or the interest rates were 10 or 11%. But if you're going to see now itself only, it has 50% reduced. See, this is what the major thing. If you're going to take in the case of the home loan or maybe the housing loan, the interest rates are slightly versatile in nature. Okay, and depends upon the type of the banking sectors. Next, social. What is the lifestyle trends and all? 100 ವರ್ಷ ಹಿಂದೆ ಇದ್ದಿದ್ದ ಥರನೇ ಲೈಫ್ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ? ಇಲ್ಲ. Next, demographics, that you're going to take it. Study of the people as well as the cultural aspects, the population aspects. So that is important. Consumer attitudes and all. Obviously, consumer attitudes is also tend to have an impact. That's why they go for the media views, the branding of the companies and all. That's why the advertisements will come into the picture. There is a media views. Okay, fashion and the role models and all. We have brand ambassadors for making for the cultural tourism approaches, or maybe the foreign brand ambassadors and all for any of the companies and all over other. countries if they wanted to represent them likewise, and the events that tend to influence the people. So these are the socialistic analysis. Next, let us get to know the technology. What is the technology? It mainly refers to either the development, what is the research funding institutes and all. Do we have the research funding agency or an organization? Yes, we do have in our India. There are many of the research funding organizations, including of the IITs, NITs, TFIR, Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, TERIs, and other research organization likewise, CSIR, ISRO. So these are the other part of the technology that it is very much important. And then replacement technology, that is very much important. Data and communications, maybe IS people or the CS people will be getting to know how much data are important for each and every part of the sectors in the society. Okay, consumer buying, what is the innovation potential, how much consumers buy. For example, Amazon, Flipkart and all, they will keep some of the persons paying them a huge price for analysis of the consumer oriented buying process. Okay, that is the one. Next, innovation potential, intellectual property issues. So these are what the technological factors that will tend to affect the performance of an organization. Same thing here also. Again, I will not like to mention more here. So yes is nothing but the social. You can see population, career attitudes, safety, emphasis on the health, consciousness, lifestyle attitude, and cultural barriers. Technology, what is the level of the innovation, research and development activities, automation process. Nowadays, it is very much important. What is the adverse technological change and how many technologies that are coming into the society? What is their awareness? It has to be taken. Next, if you're going to take the environment as a whole, weather, environmental policies, climatic change, as well as pressures from the non-governmental organizations. Okay, so economic growth means what is the exchange rates, disposable income, unemployment is what. Similarly, whatever the foreign trade policy, what is the corruption here, and governmental policies and all. What is the political stability? ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಎಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ you can able to witness all these things that is taking place in our society and the political issues. L represents here sometimes laws, and the laws or the legislations are related to what? Maybe the employment laws, discrimination, health and safety laws, copyright and patent laws, consumer protection laws. So these are the major aspects that we could take into the picture related to the sustainable development. That's the idea. Okay. Now, sustainable development ಅಂತ ಇಷ್ಟು ಸತಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ. So many times that we are stating it. What does or what kind of the things that it should have? First thing it is, it has to satisfy the human needs. What kind of the human needs that are there? Can anyone tell? What are the different types of the human needs that we require? Any one of you? Yeah. Food, shelter. Okay, that is a basic necessities and all. Apart from the food and shelter, what else we need for satisfying the human needs and all? Anyone from the girl side? Hello? Yeah, you can tell. Shall I repeat the question once again? In order to satisfy the human needs means one of your friend told that food as well as the shelter, they are necessary. Okay, apart from the food as well as the shelter, what are the other human needs that is required? in order to satisfy from the sustainable developmental activities. Water, okay, fine. You need to have the good water and good quality also, or else you cannot able to utilize it. Okay, it may be related in terms of an air also. Okay, fine. Okay, I'm not getting your voice clarity in a good condition. So, ah, okay, related to the properties and all, the assets. Okay, that also to be having the limited times and as well as the limited as per the persons. Okay, fine. Okay, let us move on to the next one because time is also getting running out. Favoring the good quality of the life through decent standard of living. Sustainable development should also have the equity, that is what we call it as a good quality of the life. We should also have the equality among low income, middle income, as well as the high income group of the people. The different areas are also there. For example, if you take in the case of the Mysore itself only, some of the areas are having the huge dimensions of the sites, and there you can able to see that the high income group of the people will tend to be. If you're going to take in the case of the 30, 40 dimension sites and all, or like 50, 40, 60s and all, it is like a middle income group of the people. Low income group means 20, 30 like that, or maybe less than that interval itself only, they will tend to leave. That's why the quarters, if you want to see, or maybe the housing colonies and all, they will tend to categorize MIG, LIG as well as the HIGs also. So, good quality of the life through decent standard of the living means equality has to be created for all of us. And even the government has also given the life for the peoples who are living in the hut, okay, where they do not have the proper accessories or the access to the safe food as well as even the safe part of the shelter also. That is what we need to see the favoring the good quality of the life and decent standard of the living. Next, third point it is related to sharing the resources between rich and poor. So can anyone tell me how can the sustainable development shall tend to contribute the sharing of the resources between rich and poor? Anyone? Feel free to answer the question. Yes. Or people are understanding the concepts, or I don't know, because this might be slightly a boring part, but all these things are very much important. That's why I'm explaining all these fundamental things. If you want to get to know resources between the consumption as well as the production also, then it will be very much good. Yes, anyone? Sharing the resources between rich and poor. Rice item. Rich as well as the poor. That is also one of the resources. Water. It is also a resources. Air is also a resources. So if you're going to take it everything as a whole, it should be the rich will tend to consume more and more because they wanted to have the stocks and all. The poor will depend upon the daily wage workers or the basis and all, or maybe the weekly wage workers are also present. So they need to sustain their life and all. In such cases and all, the sharing of the resources becomes very much important, or maybe the critical concern also. Next, moving on to the fourth point, acting the concern for the future generations. So, what is that related to the future generations? We should also have the good relations from the past or the ancestral generations to the present generations. So that is the major thing, and sustainable development should have all these things. Otherwise, then we will not going to call it as a sustainable development, and that too it will not tend to lead also. So that is the one thing. Next thing it is the cradle to grave concept. ಈ ಕ್ರೆಡಲ್ ಟು ಗ್ರೇವ್ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ ಕೂಡಲೇ ಕಸದಿಂದ ರಸ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಕಸದಿಂದ ರಸ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಡಿಸ್ಕಾರ್ಡೆಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ವೇಸ್ಟ್, ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಲಿ segregated, properly collected, as well as recycled, reused, or the resources utilization on a raw materials, the pressure will tend to decrease. So that is what we call it as cradle to grave concept, impact by consuming. And next important thing it is minimizing the resource usages. How to minimize the resource usages? If you satisfy all those needs or maybe the considerations related to whatever the 5 points that we have stated, satisfying human needs. First, may ಬೇಕಾಗಿರೋಂಥದ್ದೇ ಅದು. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? Okay. Next, because I need to have proper home, food, and shelter. Next, good quality of the life I need to lead. Sharing the resources between the rich and the poor. Accessibility. Next, acting with the concerns for the future generations. Means the resource protection has to be done. Through what? You need to have cradle to grave concept. That impact only will tend to reduce. Thereby, you can have the minimizing the resource usages. So these things are quietly cyclic in nature. One or the other thing of the points which I have aforementioned here, they are dependent upon. Okay, so this is the major need or the concern, that the sustainable development goal should benefit the common people in this manner. अर्थात है, yeah, sustainable development, there is a contribution from our side also, and there is a benefit for what we have contributed towards the society. Okay, so these are the sustainable developmental expectations that we as a common people or as an engineer will tend to have and approaches. Okay, so with this I'll be going to end my part of the presentation for today, and let me have any of the interactions. If you have any questions that you can ask for. Okay.